The Mac and Pete Project.
So, Mac, we
Yes,
had a guest
Pete.
star this week. Well, I guess he appeared last week. A man by the name of Jay Carnes, who was in one episode of Star Trek Voyager,
That's correct.
which is very funny because the episode he was in, he happened to be an officer on a Federation time ship from some future century. And basically, that ship exists outside of the space-time continuum, and his sole responsibility is to monitor any inconsistencies in the timeline.
This is correct. So as I pointed out to you, I didn't make the connection last week, only that it was the same character. And yeah, he could be undercover. We could find out more. He did help them escape. He got fired. I don't know. But he became the captain of the vessel after the captain was relieved of duty. So that I found interesting, because that now he's
long time no see.
He's got his own ship. He's got shenanigans that he could go on.
What's really interesting is the name of that ship in Voyager was called the USS Relativity, and it was a Wells-class starship. Probably a reference to H.G. Wells, the author of The Time Machine. The name of the character in this episode that he played was Agent Wells. So, did they do this and not make them the same character just to troll us for a week?
Or mystery box. Are we just randomly grabbing ideas and thoughts and throwing them together? Is that possible? I don't know. What I do know is that, how do I put this? The other episodes to this point, the first ones were okay. They were good. But to this point, were abysmal. This one was better, but still, what's the word I'm looking for, Pete? I think he used the word dumb.
Yeah, I know I say this every week. I feel like nothing's happening at a snail's pace,
Well, it's kind of funny when you said that you wish there were standalone episodes. And then all of a sudden, we have 2 episodes that have no point to the story whatsoever. I'm not figuring. There's somewhat character building. There's the most interesting thing that happened was the Q thing. The Guinan thing. Honestly, the most consistent character is Q, because he's inconsistent.
You think I'm dying? I prefer to believe that I am on the threshold of the unknowable. When I first felt it, I thought to myself, this is good. This is new.
Right. He's having a full mental breakdown.
Yeah. So it's like, there's no way to screw up Q because he's crazy.
Like I said, he seemed crazy.
So it's hard to screw that up. So I don't know. For me, it's...
So what are the 3 things we got to link together? We got to link together Q teaching a lesson. We got to link together the Borg Queen trying to take over the Earth and start a new collective, and somehow that triggers this whole entire season in the future with the Borg wanting to join the Federation, with the Agnes Borg Queen, we'll just call it. And
I'm not sure.
We need to match this with the Europa mission, which is tied into Adam Sung's experimental daughter that Q has now given freedom to. So we got 4 threads of nonsense that we've got to tie together.
So let's recap, because I'm still lost.
Okay.
So we've got there's time travel involved, whether it's Picard learning a lesson, all of them learning a lesson, Q's thing.
And that
We
was
have-
in this episode that all humans live in the past until they get over something.
Our inability to escape the past.
The opposite. When something inside you is broken, it stays with you. You live in the past until you're able to reconcile it, even if it's painful.
Which makes Guinan have faith in humanity again.
You do the work because you want to evolve.
We'll just set that aside for a moment.
I'm sorry.
Because usually in an episode, there's a linear story going on. This was so convoluted, and I made the joke that it opened like an X-Files episode because they were running around in the woods, and it looked like the Northwest. Well, that's one, but two, being the good canon Star Trek fan that I am, I do know that there were only 2 instances that were talked about that the Vulcans came to Earth.
I don't think so.
There was a whole
episode.
episode. One of them was an accident, and one of them was on purpose.
Good old Carbon Creek.
That's correct. So now all of a sudden we have rogue Vulcans look like they were testing water.
I'm willing to let that go and just write it off as a duck blind mission gone bad.
Could be. Or they could be Romulans. Because we do know that Romulans have similar physiologies. Maybe there's a Talon tie-in there somewhere. I don't know. What I do know is it was a nice nod, but I'm tired of picking out little itsy bitsy Easter egg things when you have this. I keep seeing these articles. The one article said, Star Trek Picard is garbage. What was the other one? If you want a real story, play Star Trek Borg online. I mean, I'm reading all these little articles. We must not be the only ones that, think that Picard is
50 at this point, as with almost everything online.
Yeah. So, I don't. What do you want to say?
Like on the Vulcan thing, when Agent Wells was describing his head being pushed in by the Vulcan.
He wouldn't let go. Like he was pushing into my head.
Yeah.
Was his hand like this, or was it more like this?
Yes.
And then I thought Picard was going to do a mind meld since he's an android now, because one of the Soji androids from last season said,
The mind meld.
I like studying Vulcan physiology, so I can do mind melds. And they're like,
Yeah, I thought that was more neurological than physiological, but call me crazy.
At least that didn't happen.
There's a positive there. I'm not a fan of hers, but I will, the doctor, Girardi, I will have to commend her on her, not the character, but the actress, Alison Pill, I believe. I looked something up. I believe her portrayal of the Borg Queen is about spot on.
Picard either boards a spaceship and makes a discovery that renders your work obsolete, or doesn't.
Because you can tell there's an actual distinction of her personality to the Borg Queen. So I do think that she's pretty spot on with that. So that's probably the only positive thing I have to say, except that Adam's Sung is a psychopath. And I never realized it before until this episode. Like, I knew he was kind of dangerous, but I didn't know that he was kind of... he could be Khan's dad. He's like that nutty.
Real?
Reality is a construct of simple-minded fools who can't function in the absence of boundaries. Real.
Okay, another thing that was ridiculous in this episode relating to the Borg Queen is Seven and Raffi continuing their detective work. They see that she stole a cell phone and ripped the battery out, and then saw that she was ripping the batteries out of electric vehicles. And she's like, they're going after the lithium ions in these batteries because it's going. I forget how they described it. It said it was an adaptive. Is that the word they used?
I don't remember. What they were trying to do is like saturate the body with metals that make it easier for the nanoprobes, to assimilate Girardi's body, and then.
And apparently, just anyone's not good enough.
Correct.
So she has to go break into Adam Song's house
while he's drinking
to use his military connections to get a bunch of military test subjects.
Special forces types, and then assimilate them. Yes.
Yeah, we jumped to the end of the episode, so
it doesn't matter. You don't,
not
knowing
like
that
because there's not a beginning, middle, or end.
No, it's like a Conan story. There's no linear. It's just telling pieces of his life. In this case, it's not in the vein of telling a story or building characters. It's like a storyteller with Tourette's. It's like, I have no idea what's going on. None of the predictions. I mean, we got pretty good with predictions up until about the Gary 7 moment, and then that was it. We've now gone off the rails.
Not that I want it to be predictable.
No,
we want it to make sense.
I want it to make sense. It doesn't have to be a T, but I want it to make sense. But
so we beating around the bush, but basically Picard and Guinan spend the whole episode under FBI watch.
Correct.
Until Picard's able to convince him to let him go because they share a story, because he's was an alien abductee in his mind, and basically,
or they both had a mind meld. I don't know.
Yeah, and then I guess they're going to use their connections to save the Europa mission, which currently isn't in danger because
no one believes in aliens.
So
that's it, Pete. I can't do any more. I can't do it.
And then just the nonsense between Q and Guinan. I mean, at least he admitted that they haven't met yet.
And you are that multi-celled, sanctimonious, droning shrew known as Guinan. Right. It's the 21st century. Our paths have yet to cross.
So, you guys remember I did that calculation from Q Who? They should have met in the 2100s and not the 2000s.
That's correct, and that's fine. But what you have to remember, what she also said is that we've had dealings.
Yeah.
So if they meet in the 2100s and they've had dealings, and the treaty predated the meeting. Do you understand what I mean? So the only thing that I can get from that, and I'm playing devil's advocate, is that Guinan's people in the past met other Q, but Q that we know from the Q, the John DeLay Q, met Guinan in 2100s.
The other stupid thing that I see that was being brought up all week on the internet was the Elorians were able to have a Cold War and strike a truce with the Q, but their planet was destroyed by the Borg. So they can go up against the Q continuum, but not the Borg.
If we play devil's advocate, maybe the continuum was not as advanced as they are now. if we play devil's advocate and say that the Elorians, the civilization at its zenith, had more technology, but now since they're scattered throughout the galaxy, I don't know. But and the other thing is, which Borg are they talking about? Because
But once again, that doesn't happen until like the 2200s in Star Trek Generations.
Correct. So if those are refugees just after it happened, just after Kirk's retirement, I don't know. This is what happens when you you're trying to do the J.J. Abrams and wipe out a timeline so you don't have to. That's what you're doing. You're doing it so you don't have to harken back to old stuff. Because, and I'll be the first to admit it, it's nerds like us who can have an encyclopedic knowledge of, you can't do that because on episode 23 in the original series, Kirk did X, Y, and Z, which influences the rest of Star Trek history. We can do that. But the problem is there's writers they're good writers, but they haven't watched Star Trek religiously. So I get the idea. But
I'm
this whole thing
right there.
This is lazy.
You called them good writers. That has yet to be seen.
I was being nice, Pete. Because that's something we haven't done in a long time. Like 7 episodes. So. But yeah, that's all.
At least we only have 2 more weeks of this. And then we can watch Strange New Worlds, and maybe that'll be better? Maybe?
My hopes are very low. But that's it. That's all I got.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.